opportunity to access that funding with this declaration. The city, Community Pantry, Project Hope, CASA, the My City Youth, and others may be able to use this money to make a dent in this problem. Valley Restart's outreach team, funded by the CDBG program, has helped over 10 people get off the streets and get housed, 5 people in the last couple of weeks. And we are working with many, many more. So we probably work with 100, and then they don't just get housed, but they get services to help issues such as mental health, substance abuse, medical issues, family issues. I know that Project Hope has the same type of success. Nationally, over 70% of lower-income households were rent-burdened, paying more than 30 or even 50% of their income on rent. In a recent Federal Reserve report on U.S. economic well-being, 46% of adults reported they cannot cover an emergency expense of $400. This money can help reduce homelessness on the streets, but it can also help keep people from losing their housing. It can help pay for rent in a financial emergency, keep the utilities on, provide transportation to work when a car breaks down, maybe even help with the repairs. It can help pay uncovered medical costs, provide work uniforms and clothing like work boots. It can help put food on the table. This funding will not be a quick fix, but it can be a jump start. Our community needs to be able to access these funds, and our community deserves to be able to access these funds. Please vote yes to declare emergency so our community can address these issues. I know it's blinking, but I have a couple of responses to the Ninth Circuit Court opinion. I do not believe that shelters will want to rush into this area because this is only 2-year funding. Everything has to be done by 2021. I don't think that realistically anybody could come in and say, hey, I'm going to build a shelter in the small industrial area that, you know, Valley Restart is already located in with these funds. I just don't think it's possible. So I think that while that's a concern, it's not a high concern. Just as a side note to My City Youth, I know. There is a percentage set aside for youth. So thank you very much for your listening and your patience and the couple extra minutes that I got. Thank you very much.
She took your time, Jim. You can. No, I'm just kidding.
Hope she didn't take any of my time away from me.
No, you didn't hear me. I said, yeah, she took your time.
Jim Lineberger with the Community Pantry. I just learned about this not too long ago. I haven't done a lot of education on it. But I always hear rumors. Facebook, just scuttlebutt is the word I'm going to use. We have the business owners, the long-term residents say every time you bring resources, it brings more homeless. I've heard this. I've heard the Pantry, Salvation Army, and Valley Restart is the reason for the homeless. We got to get off of that old myth. I've shared with council before, my adopted mother was raised and born in Hemet. She's 84 years old, and they had homeless back then. At this level, no. They had drug addicts back then. At this level, no. So let's get rid of the BS and the myth, because that's not true. With that, we also have to be stewards with our money. We have to be able to house people, but make sure they stay housed. So we have to be very precise on who we're going to help, not just the homeless on the streets. But I've shared before with the grant I got last year with the CDBG, we are housing women who have come in with their spouse dying, becoming homeless. I'm not saying forget about those on the streets, but we have to find the few select that can sustain. We have to look at the homeless seniors, and in my opinion, that comes first. Then we have to understand, if we don't do nothing, how's it working for us now? That's my question in anything. How's it working? It ain't. I no longer support homeless with housing, not because I don't have a passion. I've got 30 years doing this. It's I don't have funds and I have to be selective. So my choice for my agency is seniors and single mothers. And if I have funds, then I help the homeless. So we need to either, whether it's an ad hoc committee or something, we need to come up with a plan. We need to take these funds. We have to do something. Now, for you, Eric, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or if this Circuit 9, are you familiar with the ARLUPA Act of 2000? That could be based off of that because that ARLUPA covers a lot of this stuff. it is given the rights of homeless to stay in the parks during the daytime. So this is something different. So we need to educate ourselves on the federal law. And Eric's the expert on this, not me, but if Ninth Circuit gets appealed, will the Arlupa Act overcome that? I don't know. So it could be a federal law that Circuit 9's going for. Please, let's not use the myths of before. We have to do something. We need to do something as a community, as people who need to be compassionate. But let's be selective on who we use it for. And let's make sure they can sustain and stay off of the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, are there any others?
Stacy Olson, and she will be followed by Lieutenant James Fleming.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Council. I was so excited when I got the email from the Continuum of Care regarding this funds. I thought it was like manna dropped from heaven, something that we had been asking for and longing for so long, even on the task force. Our question was always, well, where's this funding going to come from? We have no funding. Where's the funding going to come from? And here it is. Money, specifically, not only just for one thing, but it's an array of things to keep people off the streets before they get on the streets, to help people stay in their homes, all kinds of things. You know, the flip side of that is what they talked about, not being able to enforce certain things about people sleeping in places. Police can go ahead and right now and tell them, hey, you can't sleep here, but they're just going to go sleep somewhere else. So they move them along and they go sleep somewhere else. It's not like they're not sleeping because there's laws in place. So they just go somewhere else. So I don't really see that as being a problem. The problem is we don't have funds. The problem is that I'm constantly calling places to see if they have funding for different things for my clients, and they're out of funding. Oh, we'll call this place, let's contact this, oh, they're out of funding. They come to me and I'm like, you know what, I'm out of funding. People who really genuinely want help off the streets, and every single door is closed. That is a resource because they're out of funding. So do we close the door and not take the funding because people are going to be sleeping outside and we can't enforce them not to? Well, that's already happening. Bottom line, it's already happening. So I was super excited to hear some of the comments tonight about like, yes, go, go, go. And I'm hoping that that's how it turns out tonight, because I think it would be absolutely a godsend. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Lieutenant, good evening, sir.
Well, thank you for hearing us out. I feel the same way as what Jim and Stacy both just said, and even forget your name, Susan said. I appreciate you guys hearing us out. First of all, declaring a state of emergency would allow us to gain access to funding to run a structured program. We just really want to run a structured program. There is no funds. I've had, it choked me up. I've had moms come in the door at least once a week, twice a week, once a day, I want to say, with their kid in the car, asking me to pray for them, because they don't know where they're going to go. And they're like in a home. They're in a home at the moment, but they have nowhere to go after they're getting evicted, or they need like some rental assistance, something like that. So really what we just want to do, united, is do what we're already trying to do, but just with some support. We're already really, really doing we're all scrambling. We all communicate together. We're all running around trying to we're doing this no matter what. Whether it comes out of our own pocket, whether it comes out of our own togetherness, or unity, we still try to get somebody to a home. It's just so nice if we were able to have some funding to be able to actually sit down and go, hey, come in the office, because I have this relationship with so many people. They come in and get fed, and they get some food from us. And then we have an opportunity, if we can have an opportunity to have a caseworker sit down and say, how can we make this work? How can we get you to the next level? Oh, wow. That'd be wonderful. And it's not even I think even the concerns we have, it's all about leverage. And I think that we can be creative and come up with a way to leverage those people from camping on the streets, Even if I volunteer to go out there and talk to them and get them out of there and, tell them not to sleep in the tent. I'll do whatever I got to do. So I just want to thank you for hearing us out. Our idea from the Salvation Army's point of view is not to give a handout, not to hand out more things, but to give people a handout. We really want to do that. We have a lot of success in our organization in doing that over the years, and we've been around 150 years, and we'd love to continue to do that. In fact, the people in Riverside County, we have other agencies around here, and they're already applying and doing it, and they're going to do it. So if we're going to be the only ones in the Salvation Army in Riverside County not doing it, it just kind of sucks. So thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I want to, if I could add something. Did you have something to say?
I'm just going to ask if there was any more speakers, and there are none, so Bonnie, you're up.
This brings up a really good point, because our homeless task force is somewhat on a stalemate because of the process that it takes to do the things that we would like to do. But it's important for people like Jim and James to be at that table, because collectively we can partner on some of these requests. So it's, as a group, together, we can submit applications, and as you well know, partnerships mean an awful lot when it comes to getting awards. So it's really important that you're at that table, and we welcome you there. We want to get input from everybody, and now that this funding is there, we have the perfect opportunity to do some of the things that we wanted to do collectively in the community. So please be at the table, and we'll send you an email.
I add some more?
Sure.
Now I'm going to be Debbie Downer, because as Susan pointed out, and I don't know that anybody actually caught it, out of this $500 million, Riverside County gets less than 10 million. That's really not a lot of money. However, I'll go here again. If Riverside had just added 25,000, actually 5,000 more people, the city of Riverside would have been eligible as a big city and been taken away from our pot. But the cutoff from the state was 330,000 population. Riverside City is 323,000 population. We should have all moved to Riverside. Anyway, it doesn't, that's the downer part. The good part is that there is the almost 10 million. And it is going to be allocated very, very quickly. This timeline, they're going to be getting the first round is coming out like now. So however everybody is going to get together and decide what the priority of projects are going to be, it has to be done real soon, and we all have to be at the next Continuum of Care meeting, which is October 18th in Riverside. And that's when there was a lot of discussion this time. There's going to be more discussion and decisions at the next one. So whoever does what, and Susan had a great idea for Valley Restart, portable shower. I mean, it's such a simple thing. That's not going to cost $10 million. So that hopefully will get funded. Even City of Riverside said that's a really good idea. So there are things, but everybody's going to have to come together and establish priorities for our city, and then take those priorities and reinforce them at the Continuum of Care, because they will be the funding agency, and 5% does get set aside for youth. So that's it.
Jim, the next meeting is October 22nd.
1 second.
Well, it takes me 10 seconds to get my butt up there. I used to be part of the COC committee, and it's a great group, but I'm going to be honest with you. There's politics involved in that. I think what needs to happen, I brought this up with Jill a few times and some of the people that run the program, how's money dispersed through the COC? I don't think they're looking at which is the worst city, which is the struggling city. So what's going to be important with this grant is this council getting with Mr. Washington to get with the COC to say, okay, if the 10 million gets sent to the county, I don't know if it's the supervisor, but it should say, Hemet's the worst. They should get more. Temecula's not the worst. They should get less. I think that's a big key. And I got away from COC because I saw a lot of that stuff happening. So we need support from the supervisor's office to make this work and work to our benefit. That's all I need.
And I appreciate that. And Natalie Komuro, who is the new hire for homeless in Riverside County, she was there. I was impressed. She has a good head on her shoulders because she was talking about issues that made sense, not from the political standpoint, but from the practical standpoint. And so, again, getting together and deciding on priorities from here to take forward and press the issue, I think is extremely important. We can't miss the boat on this one.
Very good.
Now that's it.
All right. I've got a question for Deanna about our zoning and our ability for our police powers through this. Is our zoning laws set up in a way that a shelter has to come through the planning commission, and do we already have zones set up in the city for shelters?
The state of California already mandates that every city has to have zoning for homeless shelters within their housing element, or they won't certify the element. There's a couple different ways that we did it. What we did here is that because there was already the existing Valley Restart Center, that we designated kind of an overlay zone, and where Valley Restart was, and because we already had that existing, that was satisfactory to the state. I don't know what the resolution will hold in the future, or where the state will go in the future. They're certainly passing a lot of legislation lately regarding housing and housing for the homeless. But that's under the current zoning requirements. The city of Hemet complies, and that's how we comply.
So we're limited on where a new facility would be able to come in, is what I'm hearing you say.
Under our current codes, yes.
Is that something that could set the city up for liability or a legal challenge?
Not insofar as the housing elements and our current zoning. We're consistent with state law. What I can't answer is if we have an applicant for a housing shelter that's in that area and is for some reason otherwise unacceptable, the extent to which we'll be able to deny it for discretionary reasons. We haven't had a chance to run through those scenarios. And frankly, as some of the members have said, we haven't had a whole lot of shelters looking to move to town, so it's not something we've had to address yet.
Very good. Thank you.
Also, just in terms of that, the state also had mandated with SB2 that transitional and supportive housing is required to be in every jurisdiction. So we do allow that by right within our zones.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, what do you want to do?
All right, I move that we approve this as presented.
The motion and a second. Please vote. Linda. Hold on. That's supposed to be a yes. My vote is a yes, not a no. I was looking this way and pushing, and it went because this button sticks. Okay. So that passed 5-0. Okay. Moving along. City Council reports. Councilmember Brown.
Nothing to report on the Water Master. Disaster Planning Commission, there's no new action on that at this point. We did have our Emergency Services Coordinator hosted in-service training, about a half-day training for our department heads and managers. Thank you all for your attendance at that. I know you were probably thinking about all the things that we're collecting in your end basket while you're in that training, but it is important that you are there because when the disaster happens, as I said in my welcoming comments at your meeting, that citizens are going to look to us for leadership, and so that role is coming to us, whether we want it or not. So it's important that we have some good insight into what to do, and I appreciate your taking it seriously and being in attendance. The Western Community Energy Board met recently, or they're going to meet tomorrow, actually, and I'm not going to be able to attend as an alternate. And I know Bonnie just got back in town, and she's on Michigan time right now, so I don't know. I haven't had a chance to even talk with Bonnie to see if she's going to be able to attend. But they're moving quickly with their evaluation of rate structures and potential savings that could be realized. So they've got a very aggressive meeting schedule going right now. And so I put on my calendar to attend the subsequent meeting that's happening on, I think it's October 8th. So one of us will be there for that. And that's all I have.
On RCTC, at the last meeting, they approved actually the purchase of the Dilworth property, which is about 69 acres on the west side of town, which will, for part of the mitigation for the Highway 79 realignment. I think it's the first, maybe second property that has actually been purchased by RCTC. So in our next life, that'll come through. The library board, their library foundation golf tournament, annual golf tournament, is Saturday the 29th at Golden Era. And through the summer lunch program at the library this year, 3,200 lunches were served over a period of 2,100 days. This is a collaboration and partnership with Hemet Unified School District. They supply the food for the children to come in for lunch, and they are served upstairs in the library. Also, this past year, if I get this right, 440,000 items went through the library, circulated through the library to card holders this year. So they're doing a good job. On the League of California Cities, attended the conference down in Long Beach. There were a lot of good breakout sessions. But coming out of that whole thing, that the Riverside division of the League has determined that one of the main focuses of work for this year is going to be, as Riverside County as a whole, looking at the homeless issues. And that is it.
Well, as Russ mentioned, I just got in tonight from Michigan, so for the last week and a half, so I don't have much to report, except I do want to remind people, if they're interested, well, please be interested in attending the Valley Restart fundraiser event on the 29th. Cruise the Inside Passage at the Clipper Ship at Golden Era. Great event. I think they're almost sold out, but not quite. So if you're interested, please call myself or Susan.
Yeah, we have about 50 tickets left.
Okay, great. So should be a great event. If anybody remembers the one that they had there for the library years ago, it was, and it's going to be on the same ship and theme per se, but a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment, a lot of food. And it'll be a good night to remember. And it'll help a great cause.
All right. Well, first we had our Chief Brown had his ladder of excellence. Where's he at? Yes, and I think most of us were there, but great turnout, and thank you very much. That was amazing presentation of everything. And the lady that you introduced that saved the lives, that was amazing. So I don't think we do enough of that stuff. So thank you, and thank you for putting that on for us. That was a great job. And I snuck away at the end to go to Saboba to the powwow, because that was the only night I could go to, but we got an Indian taco. That was great. Not on the diet. Yes. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yes. Okay, and then we met with the ad hoc committee for the finance for the investment policy had a meeting because we didn't have our committee meeting because our committee isn't put together because we don't have our RFQ finished. So hopefully we are going to get updates on that. You got that on the calendar, right?
No, I got that one.
Okay, because we missed you. Okay, I was just making sure. We do need some clarification from the city attorney on some things going forward, so hopefully you can call me one of these days. That'd be great. And then we can proceed with that committee. Let's see, what else do we have on here? I think that covers all of the things that we did. Thank you.
Okay. First up, Planning Commission. There was 3 items that were up for Planning Commission review. All 3 were related to the KPC project at State and Stetson. I'm getting the nod, yes, so I am being correct. Yes, so State and Stetson, they approved the tentative parcel map, conditional use permit for the former Kmart building, so they're going to be making some progress. Did they say when they were going to be starting on that?
I think they want to start at the first of the year.
Okay, even better. So there is some investment going on in Hemet, and then also a conditional use permit for McDonald's, a new McDonald's to go in at that same State and Stetson. So that's good. So we're starting to see some more investment, some more development, and some projects moving forward, and some old buildings that have been sitting vacant for several years starting to be repurposed. So that was out of planning. I don't have anything else to report. My RCA meeting was, I reported out at the last council meeting. Ad hoc committee is up next. Master annexation. We haven't had a meeting. Florida Avenue, would you like to speak on that now?
Sure. I also wanted to add, we have some negotiations going on with Dunkin' Donuts too, so they're looking at 2 locations here. Marie brought up what's happening on Florida Avenue, and so it's as current as today. I contacted a well-known lobbyist, Jason Gonzalez in Sacramento, where he, his father, and his grandfather have worked with virtually every city in the state of California, and told them what our situation was. But what we had just found out, that Malcolm Doherty, who was the director of Caltrans, actually resigned in February. And we hadn't been aware of that. And Mr. Doherty had made certain commitments to the city in terms of if we did our own engineering study as to alternative to the median strip, that he would definitely consider it. And also that money allocated for the construction could be perhaps negotiated. There's provision in state law that allows Hemet to negotiate to take over the actual street itself. And so we had the engineering study done. It made several, we thought, valid suggestions, etc. But what we didn't know is that Mr. Doherty was no longer there. He left in February along with all his legislative analysts. And then we just got notice this week that John Belinsky, who has been the strongest proponent of the median strip, is no longer the director of District 8. He's been made somewhere else. And so we have a new woman, Lori Berman, who is now the director of Caltrans, and Jason Gonzalez has contacted Assemblyman Mays, who is in the forefront of the original negotiations, if he would reinvest time in setting up a meeting with Lori Berman, the new director, and we raised the issue again. And so I was asked to draft a letter, which I had Sudi do, for Mr. Mays' signature, and so that just went
I just mailed it out today to the lobbyists who will work this out with Mr. Mays. So we have all this going on. I can't attest to what it's going to do or the new person where she's coming from, but all the players that were involved in this from Caltrans are all gone, and we were never notified. In fact, the latest, I think, July, the mayor got a letter from Belinsky saying that they were moving forward, and we understand that they're going to our request for a proposal on it. But again, the players are gone, so we're doing it again, but with new players. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think I have anything else to advertise on.
It's safe to say that there's still some fight left in this old dog.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of got new players.
And I got the email from John just last week. I think it was on Thursday that he sent that email. Did you get that email too, Linda? Yes, I think it was on Thursday. Yeah. So he sent out notice last week that he was stepping down to take a position as the District 7 director, which is out of LA. So LA can have him.
So Marie, that's where we are on that. And hopefully we'll have a meeting set up in the very near future with the new director of Caltrans. One other item I needed to bring up, which I hate to, but I have been requested by 2 councilmen to raise under my part of the agenda the celebration of the 100 or 110 year anniversary of the fire department being established here.
God, you just got aged. Yeah, Scott, you look great for 110, by the way.
There were concerns raised that this was set up without the fire chief's knowledge, and without the council being involved in it too. There's some concern there's improvements going on there. The improvements will go on probably until November 15th. There's some concern about people from the public being in the fire station when the improvements are going on. There's concerns about the use of the city seal. There's concerns that the council was not informed by me or anyone that this was happening. And so they wanted me to bring this up on my portion of the agenda so it could be addressed. Done. I turn it back to the council.
The last ad hoc is the CDBG, and so we just approved, so we can dissolve the CDBG ad hoc committee. Do you need anything else, Sarah? Okay. All right. Now, city manager's reports. You got more for us?
No, just the fire celebration.
Can I ask a question on the fire anniversary? Anniversary. It's not that old. Can you talk to this? Maybe some of you don't know, the fire department is actually older than the city. The city is 108, and now the fire department is 110. You're going to do this with construction going on?
We have the remodel of the kitchen. They're gutting the kitchens. That starts October 3rd. My understanding, the revised update, as I shared with our city manager, is that they've requested a 15-day extension. They're supposed to have that done by October 31. That'll carry us to November 15th as the revised date. A lot of the logistical issues in moving the kitchen, basically it will be partly in the app room, apparatus. I don't have any of the details of the event itself and specific with the footprint, but there is some concerns with regard to the logistic pieces. It's a fantastic idea, and I want to publicly state that I certainly would be willing to work in support of the event, but I would strongly recommend, in deference to the logistic aspect of what we're trying to work through, that we possibly delay this to the first of the year when the apple's shiny. We have our station completed, and we're ready to invite the public. We have an open house, our official city open house, on October 6th. So that, as you know, is the official, tied into the Fire Prevention Week, October 7th through the 13th. And that is the annual event. We are going forward with that, and it promises to be a big challenge in light of all the scheduling delays with the kitchen remodel. But we made that decision in concert with our facilities team to make that a go, because that's a community expectation every year. So we're trying to minimize that, but certainly willing to work with the team to accomplish this.
I just have a suggestion. I mean, if it's 110th anniversary of the fire department, all the fire stations should be involved, and they should all be shiny. What do you call it? Spit polish.
Yes, shiny apple.
Shiny apple. I mean,
Station 1 and Station 2 simultaneously are going through the same remodel, or Station 2, excuse me, same remodel process. As soon as they're done, then we start right into Station 3. So this is, thank you to council for supporting that, and we're finally bringing this forward. So from a logistics, planning, those standpoints, that's my concern. So that's what I've stated.
just so everybody knows, we're having a celebration October 25th at the fire department to celebrate our 110-year anniversary. It was July 28th, 110 years ago. So that's exciting. There will be, just to ease your mind, there's not going to be anyone using the kitchen. It's a family member, actually, in our community has agreed to have it catered. So the community is involved at no charge, is allowed to come for no charge. We just request the RSVPs. So.
I just, again, this is your call with the council.
Well, this actually isn't a council vote. I just put this together.
I just would defer to the city manager. Yeah. Mr. City Manager, you can continue the conversation.
It's just like the other parties that I've done for our city employees in the
I certainly understand that, and we appreciate it on behalf of the fire department. But again, the first I was made aware of this was September 20th on your email. I've had no interaction or direction. I will leave that and defer to the city manager for further. And if any of the other council, out of respect to your position, if you have any other questions, I'm certainly available.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, that if you could touch on the Stetson Bridge.
Yeah, Chris or Sudi. The mayor had asked me for an update on the Stetson Bridge, and so asked Sudi to make a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We have submitted the full plans and the specifications to Caltrans for their review. We have a grant from them, and this is part of the grant requirement. So Caltrans right now is looking at it. They know that we are ready to advertise, but we need to get what's called the authorization to advertise from Caltrans. We have also applied for additional funding to cover the cost of construction. So far, we have about $955,000 in grant funding, but we have applied for another, I would say about $450,000 more. And I'm still keeping the communication lines open to see how the bids come and if we need to go one more time. At this moment, everything, the ball is in their court.
Usually is.
Thank you. They haven't given you any indication as to when they're going to give their final stamp of approval?
Caltrans Local Assistance in District 8 is working very well with us. They know that we are ready to go, and they're communicating with the headquarters. So we are hoping any time, but honestly, as you know very well, we cannot even predict.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes.
While you're here,
yes.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on the definitive word on this, because I don't know about the rest of council, but I get a lot of questions about that, particularly, to use their vernacular, the stupid stop signs. From an engineering perspective, the rationale for putting the stop signs there.
It was to reduce the speed of all the vehicles going on there. So it is now being kind of enforced as we go by, and I've driven that many times. I feel like people are slowing down. So that basically is trying to reduce any kind of acceleration force on the bridge, best I can say it, and on the bridge itself. And then we have also limited the weight. There's a weight limit. It has been there for a while. The stop sign is the newest thing.
So, sounds like what I've been telling people is correct, that it's the speed of the vehicles and the vibration that's created by the speed. That vibration is reduced by having them stop before they proceed across. And that's the primary objective, is to help sustain that rickety bridge a little bit longer. So on the funding, you said you have $950,000. That's the Caltrans grant that we're waiting for them to approve?
That portion has been approved. We are asking for additional 445,000, about
Okay, so
450,000.
the additional 450 is also Caltrans, so that's what we're requesting.
Yes.
So the 950 has been received, and we're asking for
We
an
haven't,
additional.
we have not received it. With Caltrans is we have to spend it first and invoice them, and they will reimburse us. It's based on a reimbursement basis.
Okay. Is there any way that we can expedite that, or add it to our list to meet with Caltrans over the median project? I know, I'm asking you to crystal ball this. It's a rhetorical question. Thank you, Sudi.
Linda, you had a question, comment?
Can I go back to my reports? Because the thing I was going to report out, I forgot.
But do you have anything for Sudi?
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Oh,
Sudi.
This is back to League of Cities. We voted almost unanimously on two resolutions. One was to, this is always cool when there's two negatives in a sentence, does that make it a positive? Anyway, to support the repeal of the preemption in California Food and Ag Code that prevents local governments from regulating pesticides. And there is a rule out there that says the state of California can tell you what you could spray on your weeds in local jurisdictions. And as the League of Cities, the 460 cities strong, we're taking a position against Sacramento one more time. The other resolution that we passed, and I thought this was really good because it had really didn't have much conversation at all, and the voice vote, I think there was 3 that voted against. It is a resolution for the League of California Cities calling upon the League to respond to the increasing vulnerabilities to local municipal authority, control, and revenue, and explore the preparation of a ballot measure and or constitutional amendment that would further strengthen local democracy and authority, which is basically saying we're going to go out there and Sacramento, if you don't back off, telling us what to do, how to do it, and then taking our money away in the process and telling us we have to do more, that we're going to change the law. We're going to have a ballot initiative or a constitutional amendment that says cities are important. That's it. It was.
Okay. With that, future agenda items. Okay. November, December council meeting schedule. Oh, that's good, because I won't be here on the 8th or the 9th.
Well, the December meeting is actually almost.
Let me scratch that one.
November meeting is. Yes. 27th. The second meeting in November.
Do we want to go dark? Unless you want to come to a council meeting on December 25th. I'm going to be a little busy that day. Yes, please.
Okay. I move that we go dark on November 27th, so we'll have one meeting on November 13th, and that we go dark on December 25th. We'll have one meeting on the 11th of December.
All right. Okay. You got what you need now? Was there a second for that motion? I will. Okay. Please vote. Okay. All right, that passes unanimously. Okay, future agenda items. Have we been able to tackle any of these, or do we want to continue to grow the list? Maybe we can start working on some of these that are on this list over the next couple months.
Well, the last one, the triangular property, we're setting up the meeting.
Okay. All right, very good. Any other future agenda items? The last one, the property at Florida and Acacia, they're setting up a meeting with the adjacent property owner.
Let's work on getting all the committees organized.
The committee stuff. We gotta get it set up. Okay. Anything else? All right. Seeing none, we will recess back into closed session.